Hello and welcome to Asian Pulse. I am your host Ritika Adlaka and thank you for turning into Asian Pulse Television. As the COVID 19 pandemic rapidly sweeps across the world, it is inducing a considerable degree of fear, worry, and concerns in the population and among certain groups, in particular, such as older adults, caregivers, and people with underlying health conditions. For the level of loneliness, depression, harmful alcohol and drug use, self harm, or suicidal behaviors are also expected to rise. If you feel lonely, always talk to someone. If you don't want to talk to a friend or a family member, find the crisis line number at 1 604 872 3311 or Fraser Health Crisis Line at 1 8777 820 7444. COVID update. Now, it is safer for pregnant women to get vaccinated. Also, Pfizer has been approved that children over the age of 12 can also get a Pfizer shot. And the third good news is that we have millions of doses of Pfizer vaccination arriving on weekly basis. So there is no shortage of receiving the vaccination. You should register and get your vaccination. I will be right back after these words from our sponsors. Kamila will be speaking with Dr. Balbir Gurm. Dr. Gurm teaches in the Faculty of Health across programs. She teaches courses on organizational and social change, research, and communication and ethics. But today, she will be talking about the rise in domestic violence during the pandemic. Have a look.
I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated. I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated. Buying or selling a house is a difficult process. Get Prem Prakash from Saba Realty Limited to find you your dream home, whether it's your first house, upgrading, or investment property. Always at your service with a fast, friendly, and honest opinion. Prem Prakash will guide you through the entire process. Get in touch with him today for a free, no-obligation consultation at 778-840-5866.
In our Asian Pulse show today, I have invited Dr. Balbir Gurm, and she is with KPU. I have known her for the last 15-20 years, and she has done a lot of work in the community, and today she is here that they have done some research, and we were going to talk about what the research is, and we're going to talk about domestic violence under the pandemic. So welcome, Balbir.
Thank you, Dee.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, and you were, congratulations, you were also got an award from the
BC Achievement Foundation, yes.
BC Achievement Foundation.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that somebody recognized the work that you have been doing in the community for the last 20-25 years.
Thank you.
Okay. So today what we are going to talk about is we are still under the pandemic. It's
Yes.
been over a year and a half. And when you really look at how it has destroyed family,
Right.
that crisis line numbers have gone up, domestic violence has gone up,
Yes.
everything has gone up because people don't have jobs, people are depressed. I don't know when we're going to be back to normal, if there is anything like normal. So you tell me what you have been doing.
Okay, so in terms of the pandemic, I've been doing a couple of things. One is just looking at what's happening around relationship violence or domestic violence, and why are the numbers and the calls going up. And it leads, our answer is that it's stress. We've got the financial stress, because like you said, people are out of jobs. The children were home early on in the pandemic. And then we've got the social isolation, right? So we're not allowed to go out and socialize with other people. And all of that has led to extra pressure and more domestic violence. And so that's why the calls have gone up. And the other thing is, even though we've since then switched to a lot of services through computers or phones, etc. But we also have areas in BC where there is no internet.
Yeah.
Right? And then we also have people who can't afford computers, right? Or children who may not have phone lines, or the abuser is always in the house.
Yes.
Right? So there's all of those confinements as well. And that's really led to more calls for help. And we're not still certain whether there's actually more abuse, but we think there may be more reporting or less reporting, but we certainly know that the number of calls are definitely up. In the early study that was done across Canada, it wasn't too representative, so even discussing it, it's a little bit biased. But what they found is that the numbers were up in some cities, the abuse rates, but not in others. And so, you know, when I look at it in terms of, from an academic perspective, it could be because people couldn't call in the cities where they're saying the numbers weren't up. And in others, they were trying to reach out, and definitely, I personally believe that the numbers are up, just because of the reasons we were just saying. Yeah.
I was also going to say that 33% of the women of color or women have lost the job during this pandemic.
Yes.
If there were people to lay off, these are the women that were supporting the family, that they don't have any job, and they are not the one that got called back to work either. And then again, when the man is in the house, the drinking, the alcohol has gone up quite a bit. You know, when everything is shut down, you can see how much money the liquor store is making. Why is the liquor store open even longer hours? So they are creating this problem so that men can go buy the booze and then come home and get drunk because they cannot go to anywhere else.
Yeah, it's true. The drug and alcohol rates have gone up, even though alcohol does not make you abuse, but you can tell that the people are stressed because it's a way of coping.
Yeah.
So it's a way of coping, and then in the process, when you're coping with it, your judgment can be impacted, and then you can abuse more, right?
Yeah.
So, and there is correlation between people who drink and abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I talked to the women and they said he wasn't drinking like that before, but just because the children are in the house, the woman is in the house, and husband is drinking. What kind of family you think it's gonna be? Obviously, he's gonna get drunk, and maybe either gonna pick up on kids or pick up on the women, because sometimes that's the only way the men know, some men, how to get the anger out, right?
Well, it's again comes to us not learning open communication and how to resolve conflict, right? Conflict resolution skills, especially if I think of our generation, they were never taught to us because the families were, there was one person in charge and you just listened and you did it, right? There was none of this, what is my right? We had no rights, right? And so now when we're talking about everybody's, I don't have to listen. The children have rights. As women, we say we have rights, like why should we be the ones always being picked on or whatever, right? Then it makes for conflict, which we don't know how to deal with because we were never taught that. And so it becomes a real challenge. And right now, the other part that I'm involved in for volunteer work is with the COVID team, right? The South Asian COVID Task Force. And so there, we've also been looking at the COVID situation and what it did to domestic violence, and also trying to get people vaccinated. And, nurses have a long history of vaccinations. We're the ones who do all your baby vaccinations, right? And so we've been using our privilege of understanding vaccines, how do you administer vaccines, how do you get people out, and doing, different ways of promotion. So trying to get people to understand why they need to be vaccinated. And I keep hearing from people, oh, well, I know so-and-so already had a vaccine and they got COVID, right? And it can be coincidental that they got it because a vaccine doesn't work for at least 2 to 3 weeks, right? So if you got it, it could be coincidental. You were exposed, give it the 14 days and you've got it. And the other thing is that it doesn't guarantee that you're not going to get it.
Right.
What we're saying is if the whole population is vaccinated, then you have less of a chance of getting a severe reaction, and the bug can't survive than the virus, right?
Yeah.
And so eventually we could eradicate it, just like we have gotten rid of other illnesses like the measles, the mumps, right?
TB,
all those,
polio.
TB, polio, right? All the things we vaccinate for.
Yeah.
And so I always have to laugh when people say, well, we don't want to get vaccinated. And I say, well, did you get all the other vaccines? Because the reason not to is far less than the severity of the illness when if you happen to get it. Yeah.
And there was no choice, because I remember we were young and vaccination, the nurses were coming, everybody has to stand up unless you are absent from school on that day. So you didn't have no choice, but you had to get it. Secondly, I was also gonna, when I was listening you talk, because when you talk about abuse, there's a lot of financial abuse too. When the women, like I said, 33% of the women of color were not called back. So that means there is one income is completely gone, right? And then people have to live on one income, and there will be a lot of argument and fight and struggle because not enough money is coming into the house as well.
You're right. You're absolutely right. With domestic violence, we find, because first of all, when we say domestic violence, we mean financial abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, and I'm missing one, sexual abuse, right? And so it's all those types of abuse, but we find generally if you've got one, you quite often also have financial. And the pandemic, you're right, has increased the financial piece. When we're not in a pandemic, or actually, I haven't seen any numbers for during the pandemic, but the seniors quite often are abused by their children. Financially. Like financial abuse is the #1 abuse against seniors. They're, want their paychecks, or they want their homes, or they want them to sign for their mortgages, or whatever it is, right? So financial abuse is definitely a part of that mix.
And especially under the lockdown, they are not meeting, they are not going to visit anybody or talk to somebody about what is the best thing for them to do. And if they come to the house, I'm talking about grown-up children, to the seniors, so there is a lot of senior abuse too, and that comes financial abuse as well, mental abuse, psychological abuse, everything. Everybody is under stress right now.
For sure, and it's the social isolation that's adding to it, right? Like the seniors may have nowhere to go right now, right? Like the gurdwaras are basically closed. I mean, you can go in Matha Tek or the mandir or wherever you're going, right? A lot of the religious places are closed, and so you don't have that outlet. The parks and rec centers are limited, right? Museums have limited. Like everybody is limited in the amount of interaction you can have. And so if you're not seeing your friends that you might talk to, even though you're getting financial abuse, you're also getting emotional abuse because there's no one to support you, right? So it's all tied in together, and I feel very badly for some of our seniors or children or women or men. We didn't talk about male abuse. It's about 1 in 5 to 6 in some of the data that we're getting. And
so this data you did is a provincial one?
Okay, so I don't collect the data. I read the data. So my research, this is sometimes difficult to understand, is not doing that primary work. What we do as a part of the Network to Eliminate Violence in Relationships is we take all this data and information and research everyone does, and we say, okay, we work with service providers. So how can we use this information? How can you use it on the ground? What can you do right? So we tell them this is the situation, so how do we now work with that?
Right.
So it's called knowledge translation research.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a different type than collecting the data.
Yeah.
We're using the data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody else did that.
Yes.
Yeah, legwork.
Yes.
And you are using and
We're trying to figure out how do you make a real difference in the community, right? So that's why when we looked
so you applied for funding?
we applied for, we're in the process of applying for a large SHIRT grant.
Yeah.
It's across Canada,
Yeah.
led by actually the University of Calgary. And what we're going to do is try to figure out what we know from all the research everybody does around the world in terms of prevention. And how can we make it so that it becomes a part of our system, our social system. In healthcare, we're finding the hospitals aren't doing it.
Yeah.
Because they are too busy focused on the acute condition at that time.
Yeah.
Years ago, your hospitals would have done prevention work as well.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at social agencies or social agencies that are nonprofit and saying, okay, where in these places can we do prevention? So that's the study that we are going to be doing next. Hopefully we're going to get funding.
Yeah.
But if we don't, our network never. We do it anyways. We've never worried about whether you need funding. In fact, we say if the community has got the will,
Yes.
you don't need the funding because then everybody is so invested, they will do it.
Yeah.
But it only works if everyone has that will. Yeah.
Actually, it's very good when you say you are not counting on the money to be coming because we have all this wealth of knowledge that somebody has done all this legwork. It's right here what we're going to do. We need to integrate this to the organizations that do that kind of frontline work.
Exactly.
Right? And maybe they can apply for funding and things like that. So and what else are you doing?
What else am I doing? I'm doing the South Asian Legacy Project. I'm one of the co-leads. If you will recall, we got a $1.1 million grant from the BC government. And so out of the South Asian Studies Institute with Director Dr. Satwinder Bains, we are working together in trying to do a number of things. One is a digital museum, so we're archiving as much of our South Asian history, photographs or any other artifacts that we can find. We're also creating a curriculum for grade K to 12 for that whole system. We're doing labor history of South Asians, so that's another one of our projects. And then we are creating a social history book. We're trying to document, get different groups of South Asians to write chapters. And then Dr. Vance and I will edit that book. But so there's a number of projects. And then the Royal BC Museum is helping create a traveling exhibition that will, anybody can book it. So whether it's a school or another museum, and work with some of our history with children or adults. So that's another big project that we're hoping to finish by next March. And as well, as you know, the Premier has promised that there will be a South Asian museum. And we are looking forward to getting money for that, to work on that. And so that's keeping me pretty busy.
Yeah.
As well as the South Asian COVID Task Force that I was telling you about. And then, of course, with the Network to Eliminate Violence in Relationships, there's never any shortage of work.
Yeah, right.
So we can work with seniors groups, we can work with children, we can work with women, with men. We have a few, actually we have one agency that works solely with men that is a part of our group, and they do have an office in Surrey. So anybody who is male and being abused. And then we also write about across gender, right? The LGBTQ2S plus community, because it's so binary. We talk male or female.
Yeah.
But if you look at some of the data there, those that are lesbian or gay have similar rates of abuse as against women.
Yeah.
So huge issues in our community, and then prevention, of course, as I was saying to you before, it needs to start right from when we find out that somebody is pregnant. And that's one way of breaking the cycle. It's not the only way, but if you intervene anywhere else, it takes much more effort.
Yeah.
But if you can do it from an early on, you work with the parents,
Yes.
and you get them to figure out within that couple what's a healthy relationship, how are they going to communicate with each other, and then how are they going to communicate with the child, because a lot of the conflict will come when one parent wants something else and the other parent wants something else.
Yeah.
And so then the child can be stuck in the middle too, but if there's clear communication amongst all of them, that keeps going, then it's helpful. And also, you don't want abuse during the pregnancy.
Yes.
Because you will get different pathways that get developed in the brain that can lead to lifelong consequences, right? It can have children acting out in schools, right? They can not have as good grades. They can get involved in abusing others, right? Name calling. Like a lot of times people don't think of abuse as name calling, but it is a type of abuse.
Yeah.
And racism is a type of abuse, right? But we don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
So the work is never done.
I was really surprised when you said that when a woman conceive a child, and however the relationship between that mom and the dad and the rest of the members in the family are, that what kind of impact that baby who is not even born will have when he's born, and when he's gonna go through life and diseases and mental anxiety and all that really starts even before they were born.
That's right, because the emotions of the mom are
Yes.
carried in to the
then-
child.
yeah.
So it becomes the environment for growth. Just like when a baby's in your home
Yeah.
and you see it,
Yeah.
the environment impacts how they grow up.
Right.
It's the same when the baby's developing inside. So even if the baby is hearing abuse or feeling abuse from their mother, it changes the way the neurons fire within the brain and how the nerves are all organized. Yeah, and that's what leads to long-term consequences down the road, and such as the ones you were saying, like the ones like cancer and diabetes are the ones that people don't normally think about, or heart disease, right? Because they seem so physical.
Yeah.
But we know that abuse contributes to all of them. Yeah.
And that's when we say that there is so much issue with the children. Anyways, I was looking at the clock, and maybe we are running out of time. But thank you so much for coming in. And I wish to bring you back, maybe one project you are starting in the middle of it.
Sure.
And you need people to participate or something.
Okay.
Come back. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with our viewers.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Gurm. There are anti-violences organizations and women shelters available if you need to get out of an abusive relationship, and we have given the crisis line numbers. 50 Women of Options are raising funds to build 100-bed low-cost housing for women who are fleeing abuse, homelessness, or that need support. You can go on their website at 50womenofoptions.ca to make your donation. You will be given a tax-deductible tax receipt from Option Community Services Society. Run Surrey Run will get off the ground as a virtual event on June 1st to June 15 for the inaugural 5,000, 10,000 walk or run. This run walk is organized by Gurjinder Kaur Burji. Registrations is limited to 2,000 participants for $25 each. For more information, please give her a call at 604-802-6703. Run Surrey Run is sponsored by RBC. Covenant House Vancouver provides love and hope through our continuum of care to street youth who have fled physical and emotional abuse. To donate for this cause, call Corey Caban at ckaban@coventonhousebc.org. I repeat, ckaban@coventonhousebc.org. Courage to Come Back After Awards Donation. Courage to Come Back is profoundly presented by Coast Mental Health for people living with chronic mental illnesses. It's devastating through isolation, and people are judgmental to donate to Coast Mental. If you'd like to donate, call 604-675-2323. Please don't forget to watch the Kamala Singh Show on Sundays at 5:30 p.m. and Mondays at 10 a.m. Fiji in Focus on every Tuesday at 10 p.m., again at 4 p.m. on Sundays. Witty Vibes Youth Show at 10 p.m. on Thursdays and again on Sunday at 4:30 p.m. If you are planning any events and you would like us to promote the event, please send your post to asianpulse@gmail.com. We ran out of time. Hope you have enjoyed our show as much as I do bringing it to you. If you have any comments or suggestions, please call or email us at asianpulse@gmail.com. If you want to support this show by being a sponsor or to promote your business, please let us know as well. Before I leave you with these thoughts. I try to treat whoever I meet as an old friend. This gives me a genuine feeling of happiness. It is the practice of compassion. If you have missed Asian Pulse today, you can watch it again on Thursday at 8:30 p.m., Saturday at 5:30 p.m., and Tuesday at 3:30 a.m. Our show will be uploaded on YouTube and Asian Pulse TV. Don't forget to watch Fiji in Focus on every Tuesday at 10 p.m. and again on Sunday at 4 p.m. I am your host, Ritika Adlakha. Have a great week. See you all next weekend. Stay safe and stay healthy.